For anyone who has done a lot of shrimp peeling, shell-on shrimp can just seem like a huge hassle. And it's true, peeling shrimp takes some time. But I'm here to tell you that it is always worth it to buy shell-on shrimp. More on that after the break. Shrimp shells are pretty fascinating. They're made of a substance called chitin, which does not break down when heated. Chitin is also what gives mushrooms much of their structure, and it's why it's very hard to overcook mushrooms. I've got a whole video on that, which you should definitely check out. There's a link to it below this video. Beyond chitin, the shells contain proteins, sugars, and tons of ribonucleotides, which are water-soluble compounds that dramatically enhance savory umami taste. They're also rich in aromatic compounds that provide shrimp flavor. But I'm hearing you say, a lot of recipes call for removing and tossing the shells before cooking. So in that case, is it really worth buying shell-on shrimp? Still, yes. The shell provides protection to the shrimp during processing, freezing, and thawing. And even if you're going to remove the shells and cook the shrimp separately, the shells still have much to give. Check out this experiment. We simmered batches of 4 ounces of shrimp shells in 1.5 cups of water, covered for 5, 10, 15, and 30 minutes. After simmering, we strained the broth off of the shells and tasted the samples warm. Surprisingly, the 5 and 10 minute samples had more shrimp flavor than the longer cooked ones. It may seem counterintuitive that a shorter cooking time produces better stock, but there's good reason for this. While there are some savory compounds found in shrimp shells, such as the ribonucleotide inosittic acid, that are non-volatile and stay in the stock, the compounds that we associate with shrimp flavor are highly volatile. They're easily destroyed during cooking. The bottom line is all it takes is 5 minutes to turn discarded shells into a nice shrimpy stock. You can make that stock even more flavorful by first browning the shells in a little bit of fat. Because many flavor compounds are fat soluble, the oil will pull those out and hold on to them. And in addition, the high heat treatment activates the Maillard reactions. So we get hundreds of new flavor compounds as well. I don't know about you, but all of this flavor compound talk is making me mighty hungry. Let's go to the kitchen. The first step to any shrimp recipe is buying shrimp. And here, I want you to do something that might feel really counterintuitive, and that's buy frozen shrimp. The vast majority of shrimp sold in this country has been frozen. So when you see unfrozen shrimp for sale at the fish counter, it just means that the fishmonger has thawed out that shrimp. Buying frozen shrimp means that you're getting a fresher product that has not had a chance to start deteriorating. Simply put, frozen shrimp is fresher shrimp. You should look for IQF shrimp, which means individually quick frozen. Most of the shrimp these days is IQF, which is great. You can tell by looking in the bag and seeing that each shrimp is individually frozen and not connected to the others. This is a very fast way of freezing shrimp so that the ice crystals that form are very small and they don't damage the flesh. And it means that you can pull out just the number of shrimp that you need for that meal. Now, the final thing to look for is the ingredient list. And here, perhaps not surprisingly, you just want to see the word shrimp. No salt and no STPP, or sodium tripolyphosphate, which can negatively impact texture. Wow, I think we know everything we need to know to make the most popular recipe ever developed at Cooks Illustrated, a perfect version of garlicky, lemony, spicy shrimp scampi. The first step is to peel and devein our shell-on jumbo shrimp. Now, we all know that jumbo shrimp is definitely an oxymoron, but it is also the size of the shrimp that correlates to about 16 to 20 shrimp per pound. Just remember that the smaller the count number gets, the bigger the shrimp will be. What I mean is, 1 shrimp per pound would be 1 big old shrimp. Which begs the question, would you rather fight one 1-pound shrimp or 16 to 20 shrimp that add up to a pound? Man, shrimp really try to confuse us, huh? Jumbo shrimp? Frozen is fresher, a smaller count means larger shrimp. I'm on your little game. Here's how I like to peel shrimp. I run my thumb up the belly to remove the small legs. Then it's simple to peel the shell off like this. And for deveining, here's what works well. Simply run a paring knife along the back of the shrimp and then use the knife and/or a paper towel to pull it out. For this recipe, we are going to brine our shrimp in a solution of salt and sugar for 15 minutes. Brining is great for shrimp because it adds juiciness, seasoning, and helps the shrimp stay tender as it cooks. And because they're so small, 15 minutes is plenty of time. Now time for our stock. We'll heat a tablespoon of oil in a 12-inch skillet over high heat until shimmering. Then we add our shrimp shells and cook, stirring frequently until they begin to turn spotty brown. That takes about 2 to 4 minutes. Then we add wine and thyme sprigs and simmer gently, remember, for just 5 minutes. We'll strain the mixture through a colander set over a large bowl. Next, we build a super flavorful base to cook our shrimp in. We heat oil, garlic, pepper flakes, and pepper in our now empty skillet over medium-low heat. We'll stir this occasionally until the garlic is fragrant and just beginning to brown at the edges. That's only 3 minutes. Now in goes our reserved shrimp and shrimp stock. We'll cover and cook this over a medium heat until the shrimp are just opaque, about 5 minutes more. Now here is the key to really tender, juicy shrimp. We created tons of flavor by browning the shells and all of those aromatics. But notice that we aren't searing the shrimp. By essentially poaching them, we keep the shrimp beautifully tender. Next, we transfer the shrimp out of the skillet using a slotted spoon. To thicken the sauce, we add a lemon juice cornstarch mixture and cook for about a minute. Then we whisk in butter and parsley until combined. Back in goes our shrimp, and it's time to eat. I love serving this with crusty bread so you can soak up all of that sauce, but it's equally great on pasta. Wow, this is amazing. I get why this recipe is our top one of all time. Now that's obviously a pretty tough act to follow, but if you really want to get to know the magic of shrimp shells, you gotta make roasted shrimp. What's that, you've never roasted a shrimp before? Well, don't feel bad. I hadn't either until I came across this recipe. And now I'm a full roasted shrimp convert. We are starting with more jumbo shrimp, and this time I'm slicing through the top shell and deveining, but not removing the shell. Just as we saw with shrimp shells giving up their flavor into the liquid, when shrimp is cooked in its shell, that shrimpy goodness is absorbed by the meat. An additional benefit is that the shells shield the shrimp from the direct heat of the oven. We get plenty of roasted, toasty flavor in this recipe, but the shrimp themselves are gently steamed inside. After another quick brine, we pat them dry and toss them with oil, garlic, coriander seeds, lime zest, annatto, pepper flakes, and cilantro. A super flavorful mixture. We'll arrange the shrimp in a single layer on a wire rack set in a rimmed baking sheet. Then we'll broil the shrimp until the meat is opaque and the shells are brown, which takes about 2 to 4 minutes on each side. I know I said roasted, but we're technically broiling. Now we transfer the shrimp to a serving platter and serve immediately, passing lime wedges. At this point, I like to get my hands dirty. You can do this with a fork and a knife, but I love nothing more than getting in there with my hands. The shrimp is super tender and really shrimpy, and the spices just take it to another level. Now speaking of levels, if you want to seriously level up your shrimp shell game, the ultimate experience is salt and pepper shrimp, where we treat the shells just so and fry them to a paper-thin crispness. So crisp and perfect that after a quick stir fry with salt, garlic, ginger, fresh pepper, and Sichuan peppercorns, you just pop the whole thing in your mouth. The shells are crispy and incredibly flavorful. Yum. I hope that my love letter to shrimp shells has inspired some of you to make these recipes, because this is absolutely how to eat shrimp. Thanks as always for watching. Now, if you've avoided shell on shrimp or just trashed the shells in the past and you're feeling bad about it, I've got an easy fix for you. Head to cooksillustrated.com/what'seatingdan and grab all of these incredible recipes. There's a link below the video. While you're there, hit subscribe, like, and that little bell icon. Then you'll never miss another episode of What's Eating Me? See you next time.